Hello, welcome to White Birch Tarot and Astrology. I'm going to try to do both tonight because I'm not going to talk about the astrology very long. Someone suggested that I do them separately, like do the astrology once a week. Thank you for that suggestion. I think that's a good idea, but I didn't get around to it this week. I'm supposed to be working on a screenplay. I only have 2 more nights to get it ready to submit to a contest, and I'm finding it challenging. Anyway, and it's interesting because the themes are coming up, well, just probably because that's what I'm thinking of. I'm going to start with a quick quote, excuse my voice, from the astrologer Rob Brezhny, who said, "Spirituality that fears longing fears intimacy." And I find that very interesting because in this screenplay that I'm working on, it's about 2 sisters and other people, and one sister says about the other one to one of the other characters, she says she wouldn't know intimacy if it crapped on her foot. Pardon my French. But I thought that was funny, and then I was looking for a quote, and that jumped out at me, and I thought, oh my God, I forgot that he said that. Anyway, I'm doing this on April 5th, so this is it's night still, but I mean, it's early morning technically on the clock, but it's Easter, so happy Easter if you celebrate Easter or whatever you celebrate. You know, it's an old pagan holiday. I don't know how to pronounce it, Eostra, the goddess of fertility. And you know, it just steams me that they took all the goddess stuff away, so I won't go on a rant, but there is that. So what I'm going to talk about astrologically is Venus, who is in Taurus at 5 degrees, and actually it was exact today, so it's kind of, you know, it's from April 1st to April 8th, very close, okay? Venus is squaring Pluto at 5 degrees of Aquarius. Now, Venus is, and I will timestamp the card reading, Venus is, as you know, she rules our relationships, and she rules what we love, sometimes what we possess. It can be money, it can be land, it can be relationships, self-worth, whatever we value. And in Taurus, she's very, she's in her power because she rules Taurus and Libra, where we just had the full moon. And a square is an uncomfortable aspect where the 2 energies are butting heads. So Pluto in Aquarius is sort of forcing Venus to reconsider, to look at what she values in a new way. And you might even say that in a very physical way, some of what she values could be slipping away or could have already slipped away. There's some death and rebirth involved whenever there's Pluto. And what's interesting, I was thinking about Pluto energy. Pluto is the god of the underworld, and my favorite astrologer, Liz Green, I've talked about her a million times, she was brilliant, still is, she said that she thinks that the underworld should be ruled by a feminine energy. And she suggested Ereshkigal, or mentioned her, didn't suggest, but suggested Ereshkigal, again, mentioned, not suggested, mentioned, who was the Mesopotamian goddess of the underworld, whose sister was named Inanna, also known as Ishtar, who is the equivalent of Venus. So if we put Ereshkigal, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, in Pluto's place, but still the underworld energy, we would have 2 sisters facing off here, which is interesting because the myth is really interesting when Inanna goes to the underworld to meet her sister. It's fascinating. So anyway, I recommend looking that up. It's very interesting. So we have Venus, who is, you know, involved with justice and balancing things, and as I said, relationships, and so there's a kind of a mental aspect, and then there's the physical aspect of desire and beauty and harmony and sensuality. And then we have Pluto in Aquarius saying, you know, I'm bigger energy than you are. Whatever you valued, some of it's gone now, or you're losing it, or it's changing, and you're going to have to think of it in a new way. You're going to have to approach this in a new way, and it's kind of about rebirth. It's about starting over, and you have to think of the collective. You have to think about what's going on around you, but also you get to be unique. You get to be yourself. You get to finally express the parts of yourself that are very individual. It's time to value what is really individual in you, even though it's not going to be easy, because you want things to be stable. When Venus is in Taurus, she wants stability, and Pluto in Aquarius is anything but, although there is an element of Aquarius which is stable because it has two rulers, Saturn and Uranus. And on the 26th of April, Uranus moves into Gemini, and my friend Christina at Dog Star Tarot sent me something today talking about things that happen when Uranus moves into Gemini, and it's very interesting because I had been reading similar things about Neptune moving into Aries, which it did not long ago. So it can be some kind of world shakeups going on, which is pretty scary considering what's going on. Anyway, so I pulled 8 cards. I forgot to pull shadow cards. I might do that as we shall see. I think I might, because I forgot to. I'm preoccupied in my head. So I'm going to start the cards now, and we'll call it 6:50. Okay. This is the, what is it called? The Llewellyn Tarot Companion, Welsh mythology. And it's interesting, I think. We start out with the 10 of Swords. The top row is just general life. The bottom row is relationships, romantic and otherwise. And actually, a lot of this is going to be about relationships because it's Venus. Okay, we start off with the 10 and we end with the 10. So we start off with the 10 of Swords. This is when there's a thought cycle that has just come to an end. Something that you're thinking about, or the way you're thinking about something, it has to change. It's no longer productive. It's not going to get you there. Okay, an attitude, something, someone you've been thinking about, it's not going to get you there. And then we get the Queen of Cups. This whole thing is full of feminine energy. We have one masculine card, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 majors out of 8 cards. That's 50%. Even I can do that math. Okay, the Queen of Cups. I think this is us. It could be someone else coming in to help you and offer you compassion, empathy. That's very possible. And it could also be us using our intuition and having a case of the feels, because of Venus in Taurus, and just letting yourself sink into that subconscious intuition and empathy and compassion rather than thinking your way through this. The only way you're going to get through this, whatever this cycle is that we're in right now, this aspect is intuitively and compassionately. That's what you've got to work with. That's the power right now. And then we get the Lady of the Fountain, who happens to be Justice. Yes, we just had that full moon in Libra. And as I said, if we look at Venus as Inanna, the sister of Ereshkigal, the goddess of the underworld, she's all about justice. And there's an aspect of Venus, of course, that has to do with justice because it's a balancing act. She doesn't have the scales in this deck. She has a sword, the sword of truth, and a cauldron. But still, I'd love to have that outfit, except not in yellow. Anyway, beautiful card. So, this is something bigger than we are. This is a karmic balance, and we can reflect that in our daily lives by, trying to get in touch with harmony, by being compassionate. She's got the sort of truth here. Truth is different than trying to figure things out on an intellectual level. This is about gut level truth and sort of a bigger truth. But this is a good card. We need this. So something is being balanced. I think it's something big. I think it's bigger than just our daily lives, but you can reflect that in your daily life and work with it. And then I'm not even going to try to pronounce these because I don't speak Welsh. I wish I did. We have the universe, which doesn't surprise me because with so many planets moving out of Pisces into Aries, we are literally coming to the end of a cycle, especially with Neptune and Saturn. They're at the beginning of Aries. There's the old passeth away and the new ariseth. This is, this is the death and transformation and rebirth of the underworld and something new beginning. And I marked this page because this deck is different, and I want to, what card am I looking for? I want to honor that. And this says, it says a lot of things. Ascension, opening to a higher dimension, culmination and synthesis, enlightenment, attaining a broader view of life, intelligence, independence, determination and stability, strength and enthusiasm, intuition and spiritual heights. Wow. And then it says, the universe represents the height of a progression. It's associated with the four evangelists, Matthew, Luke, Mark, and John, who in turn are equated with incarnation, passion, resurrection, and ascension, respectively. I did not know that. Okay, well, okay. So we're talking about cycles here, as I was talking about Pluto. Something ends. It has to end so something new can begin. And this is a big ending. This is more than just, a cycle of something you've been thinking about. This is a balancing of something in your life that something needs to go, and so you can open up the new chapter. We've been feeling that for a long time. And then on a relationship level, we get another queen. We get the Queen of Swords, which is interesting because we start out with the Ten of Swords saying, okay, just stop trying to figure this out intellectually. But we get the Queen of Swords. So it's not so much figuring things out as it is standing in your truth, because we have the Sword of Truth here. It's standing in your truth, sticking to your principles, and refusing to be swayed by other people's opinions. It's going to be your way. You need to stay in your integrity. Okay, that's very important in relationships. And then we get another major, excuse me, which is great because we have the Sun, which rules Leo. And this is about the inner child. It's about creativity. It's about having fun. It's about victory. It's just basking in the sun, It's what's at the heart of the matter. So you ask yourself, if you have decisions or things that you're thinking about, or what's your integrity about, it's what's most true for you. It's like at the very heart of the matter. What do you long for? What moves you? What makes your heart beat? Well, we don't know that, but what do you care about the most? That's where you're going to find the answer. And then we have another feminine energy, and if this isn't Venus in Taurus, I don't know who is. This is the Empress energy. So we have feminine energy, and I know her, Rhiannon, one of my favorite songs. I marked this too because I wanted to read. Well, okay, this doesn't really add much to empathy, a matriarch, guidance and support, a mother figure, security, comfort and appreciation, fertility, personal development, a peacemaker and diplomat. That sounds like Venus in Taurus, absolutely. But this is time for us to get in touch with our earthy side and appreciate the things we have on the physical level. Appreciate the physical. Venus is very sensual, and Venus in Taurus is probably, I would say, the most sensual of all the Venus placements, I would think. Venus in Earth is always sensual, but especially in Taurus. Taurus rules our senses, and it rules what we value. So is Venus exalted in Taurus? I think she is. I should have looked that up. But anyway, this is getting in touch with, what moves you, what moves you at your heart level, what you really care about, what you're loyal to. The sun is also loyalty. And then it's about what pleases you on a physical level, on a very grounded, tangible level. What do you want? What do you want? You need to try to materialize that, try to imagine it, If you were in your perfect place, where would it be? And maybe with whom would you be hanging out? I don't see a lot of I don't see romance cards here, but since this is the relationship row, and we get the Sun and the Empress, I would say there is a chance for that. We have male and female, and that can be whatever you want it to be, but we have this very masculine energy and very, I'll call it yang and yin, rather. And then we end on another 10, which is the 10 of Wands, which is normally the card where you have to put the burden down. But in this deck, it's different. It's about persevering and continuing on, and having the strength and the endurance to continue even when the load feels really heavy, which it can right now. Change is never easy, and we're undergoing a lot of change. Let's see. I don't know why I forgot to pull a shadow card, but I feel like I want to pull just one or two. I think we kind of know what the shadow energy is with the square to Pluto. It's, trying to go with the flow and let go of what no longer serves us. Transformation is never easy. Whoops, okay. I love these cards because they always fall out. I don't have to coax them or wonder which one it is. They kind of fly out. Okay, that's too many. I can't take 5. That's too many. And actually, these tarot cards flew out tonight. Okay, wow, okay. Really? Oh, dear. Well, I should have quit while I was ahead. Okay. So in my head, I was thinking, what are we missing? What are we not seeing? We're not seeing the King of Cups. So we have the Queen of Cups, but we're not seeing the King of Cups. And of course, she's a woman, I think. Okay, get off that, doesn't matter. We're not seeing the King of Cups. And we're not seeing the Three of Swords. Okay, I'm going to interpret this a little differently tonight, because I had a feeling here. I think this is us getting in touch with our intuition, but I also feel like this is someone, a feminine energy, who is being very compassionate and helpful. And then this is what we're missing. We don't have the masculine on board here. Perhaps we would like to have some masculine energy, but we're not getting it. It feels lopsided, I think, just a bit. That could be why there's a little bit of a struggle here. There's a lot of feminine energy going around right now with this Venus-Pluto square. I'm not saying in the world, I wish we had more, but just with the planetary, of course Aries is masculine, but just with this, what I'm talking about tonight, I think we feel a little destabilized, if that makes any sense. It's weighted very heavily in the feminine. And then we get the Three of Swords, pardon me. So we're dealing with an old heartbreak, or heartache. Excuse me. I almost made it to the end. So there's something that we're not looking at, or something that happened a long time ago that's rearing its ugly head. Not that sorrow is ugly, but something painful to deal with. But the good news is that I think this is a time when it can be healed and when it can come up. And as I read the quote at the beginning, If you didn't hear it, I said spirituality that fears longing, fears intimacy. So, maybe this is getting in touch with our longing. What are we missing? We're missing some masculine energy, somebody to step up and, provide the stability, and on an emotional level, because it's cups. And there's an old heartache coming up to be healed. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope this was helpful. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Please leave me a comment. Let me know how this resonates. And happy Easter, everyone, again, and I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for listening. Blessings. Good night.